Hey guys, Scott here again with a new beer dissection and what is video for you. What we're going to be covering today is a kind of a slash between what is German Pilsner as well as what is Pre-Prohibition Pilsner. And may even just talk about Bohemian Pilsner, a Czech premium pale lager, might as well put in there. I do have a video up there about American lager. Somebody may have gotten turned off when you saw the Budweiser can there, but I cover a lot of the U.S. Brewing history in that video, as well as with some German immigration things that occurred there. So it's something worth checking out. The beer dissection video, or part of it, is going to be from my friends at Moriches Brewing Company. Their Papa Pilsner. It's a Pre-Prohibition style Pilsner. The interesting thing is I've been doing these videos now for at least a couple of months, and Moriches is probably the brewery that I've drank the most beer from over the last couple of years. Because of my mobility thing, I haven't been getting around there as much, but I got this and I've got an Imperial Stout video I'm going to be doing it on. A quick thing about, just kind of a brief history of Moriches as far as I know it. About a little over 2 years ago, they opened up, and they're about a half a mile from me. If I could walk there from here, I'd be there in a half a mile. If I had to drive around, maybe a mile. And so they're right down the road, and they're one of a few breweries. Them, West Hampton Beach Brewing Company, which I've done a couple of their beers, I believe, are probably my favorite breweries in the area. They took over. They have a aviation theme based upon the fields of Long Island, all the airfields that were built and some of the businesses that built up, and the airplane industry, the businesses that built up around those fields. So if you go into the brewery, and I'm going to have a couple of pictures probably popping up over my shoulder, they have an air theme. So you go in there, there's, it looks like an old air hangar. When I've been living here in this area, it used to be an old baseball indoor batting cage thing, but they turned into a beautiful location. So it has this air theme. So if you go in there, there's a bunch of pictures on the wall and aviation. The beer board has about 15 beers on there. And they all have kind of a tail gunner. They have all different air themes. So kind of like West Hampton Beach Brewing Company has a beach theme. Rich Flynn, who's the owner and the head brewer over there, has an air theme over there with all of it. It's really really great. And as I said about their beer board, is they probably have the most elaborate beer board that I've seen on Long Island, at least, maybe ever, because they have about 15 beers on tap at all times. And what's great about someone like Rich having a brewery, like a lot of home brewers, he brews a lot of different styles. So you can go in there on a Wednesday through Sunday, get 4 flights each time, and have a different style of beer, from Weizenbach to, Flynn's Irish Stout to, they have a Belgian triple style there many times, 2 or 3 IPAs. So it's definitely an experience going in there, and they have a lot of events during the week. So I wanted to say a few things about them just in general, because I used to get there about a week every 2 weeks, and every time a new beer came out, and they always kind of have a beer come out every Wednesday. So I'm gonna have some pictures, and I definitely would check them out. They, not even for the beers, just some of their events that they have that goes on. So what I want to start with, and like I said in the lead up to this, is that I have an American lager video if you want to get a lot of the history, but I want to broach a few topics as far as German Pilsner. Most Pilsner beers got their roots from Czech premium pale lager out of Pilsen, the old Czech Republic. And back in the late 1830s, the locals were really having a problem with the beer that was being brewed. They weren't happy with it. And there was a big upheaval in the town of Pilsen. Well, they opened up a brewery, which is now called Pilsner Urquell, which you guys may be familiar with, that you see Pilsner Urquell in the stores. Joseph Groll was a German brewer. So that kind of started a lot of the Pilsner style beers came from Pilsner Urquell. And one of my videos, I talk about Pilsner Urquell, even though I don't talk about the style directly. So a lot of the German Pilsner styles came from there. Now, the water in Pilsner is a softer water versus a lot of the German waters, at least back in the day. And what that would do with the hops is, in Germany, would give it a little bit more of a pronounced kind of bitterness, and I don't want to say a harsh bitterness, versus the Pilsen hops, like Saaz hops that were being brewed in the Pilsner Urquell beer. So what happened was, you had Pilsner Urquell, you had German Pilsner. They loved the clear beers at that time because they were kind of transitioning from ceramic glasses to real glass. Only the rich really had real glass in the early 1800s. So around 1830s, they wanted to see this sparkling clear beer, and these Pilsner beers were phenomenal for that. So the Germans took a lot of pride in that. Now, with German immigration in the 1830s in the United States, when they came here, in that video I discussed this, they were used to using 2-row barley. Well, they found in the United States there was a lot of 6-row barley, and that made it very hazy. There were a lot of proteins in that barley, and there was a lot of haze in the beer, so they really weren't too happy about that. So they started using kind of the mid-1800s corn and rice, which produces, when you do a cereal mash with them, which is a higher heat temperature, produces a lot of those sugars again that the yeast will act on and produce alcohol and go through fermentation. But it won't give that haziness that would have there, that you would usually get with the 6-row malt. So they decided to use a lot of that. So that kind of went into basically the early 1900s. So hence where you get the pre-Prohibition Pilsner, which was using a lot of corn and rice. Now, I doubt very highly that Rich is using corn or rice in his Papa pills here, which I'm going to get to in a minute. However, back then it wasn't that for cost effectiveness. It was more for just because they wanted clear beer, and the Germans were trying to navigate dealing with the 6-row. But again, that did go into the 1900s, and they still continued to use the corn and rice at the time, and it rolled into Prohibition and the 18th Amendment and eventually the 21st Amendment, and people's taste buds kind of got used to that kind of corn and rice beer. Hence the Prohibition beer kind of going past Prohibition. So you had your Coors and your Millers and Schaefers and things like that in the United States that were a lot of based upon German immigration, and it kind of grabbed that name Pre-Prohibition Pilsner at the time. But now corn and rice has gotten a bad rap, and now they probably use it now in Coors beer and Budweiser, mainly because I think people's taste buds were there. But I doubt this one I'm going to crack open here uses corn and rice. It's probably brewed on the German Pilsner style. But not based upon using corn and rice per se, which is fine. And so that's pretty much, most of the history I just wanted to review again with you, is that kind of all Pilsner beers really came from Czech Premium Pale Lager in Pilsen in the Czech Republic now, and kind of amped it up into the German beer brewing, or when I say amped it up, they try to make their Pilsner beers to compete with, say, the Munich Helles, which to this day is the most popular beer in Germany, and again as well the Czech Premium Pale Lager. So that's kind of how the transition went. Now the difference in this is, Pilsner's a lager; it's bottom fermenting yeast. The IBUs on this, remember, International Bitterness Units, is about 22 to 40 on a German Pilsner. On a Munich Helles, it's 16 to 22. So you can see a Munich Helles, which is a lager, clear, crystal clear, the bitterness level is going to be a little bit lower. On a German Pilsner, the bitterness is going to be a little bit higher. And then the Czech Premium Pale Lager and from Pilsen is about 30 to 45 IBU. So it's going to be a little bit more bitter. However, remember, that has some of the soft water. So I just want to kind of give you an idea that these are all lager beers, bottom fermenting beers, fermented temperature, but we went from, has different bitterness values, so you'll maybe perceive things a little bit different on the tongue. Most of them are probably using German hops. I don't know what Rich uses in this one, but he may use some type of German Noble type of hop, or a U.S. equivalent like Willamette and things like that with their hops. But I don't know specifically, but there's a lot of different ones that you can play around with. A German Pilsner and a Prohibition Pilsner, of course, is going to be sparkling clear. In the aroma, a lot of times we're going to get that earthy, herbal, spicy, floral character. The flavor is going to kind of give you a very neutral malt profile. One thing I want to say about Moriches Field too is they make a Vienna Smash, which a smash, S-M-A-S-H, smash, single malt and single hop. So they use like the freshest two-row that I've drank around here, malt. I believe it's two-row. They may use in Pilsner malt, but it's freshest malt. And they use a single hop. So like beers I've reviewed on here, like or talked about, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale that uses the Cascade hop. They're using probably a Vienna malt, and then I don't know what hop they use in that beer, but you can really get educate yourself on certain hops. But a lot of people, not used to tasting, malt that fresh. So again, a lot on Moriches Field because, like I said, I hold them dear to my heart because they're right down the road, and I haven't been able to get over there physically that much recently. But this is really one of I've had some buddies bring beers by from them and Crowlers, which is what I have here. So again, some history there. So let's crack this bad boy open. All right, so this is from Moriches Field Brewing Company. You notice a little "Hello, my name." They've kind of kept this around. They started this when they opened the brewery, and I question because everyone's got all these crazy labels, but this is now their kind of claim to fame is that they have this "Hello, my name is," and they put the name right on the can. You have to put the name of the can on the alcohol content, but they've kind of kept this kind of theme going. So if you see a can with a "Hello, my name is," you have a beer from Moriches Field Brewing Company. Okay. So let's open this up. Again, this is Pre-Prohibition Pilsner. I'm assuming it's going to taste, though, a little bit more like a typical German Pilsner without any corn or rice in it. Rich, if you're watching this, you can correct me if I am wrong. Okay, but now, I'm not going to pour it. Well, actually, maybe I will pour a little bit in there. With Pilsners, you usually want, I usually recommend kind of stemmed. This is my Kronbacher Pilsner glass, stemmed, flute shape. That's kind of the classic glass that you would use, okay, for a Pilsner, or a straight-sided glass, okay, which maybe I'll pour my first kind of glass in there. You can use, a tulip pint, or a regular tulip glass is fine also, okay? So this beer is checking in at, let me check my notes on it, 6.4%. All right. The style typically is a little bit lower than that, but again, the Americans, we like to brew things with more hops, more alcoholic strength, and like I said, those guidelines are just kind of guidelines. They're not like legal binding documents or anything from there. So I'm expecting to really enjoy this. Okay. So pop a pill. So I'm going to pour it into the Pilsner glass first. I'm actually going to pour it into both glasses, because since I'm pouring very heavy these days, I get a lot of head on my beers. So I already can smell the hops here. And it's pouring like a Pilsner, okay? So let me show it to you on camera here first. Okay, so you get that typical, straw color, light gold, classic for the style. Amazing head there, right? I always, again, you usually want 1 to 2 inches of head, 2.5 inches. The way, again, I'm pouring these days is more like 2 to 3, but a nice supportive white frothy head. The bubbles look pretty tight in there. So I'm assuming this is going to hold its contour here and support here for quite a while. Okay, so let me take a whiff of this. If you guys want to get a better look at the color too, I got the other glass here. So perfectly clear, maybe a slight bit of chill haze, but that's pretty typical for hops and any proteins in the beer. But I would say 99% of beers are going to have a little bit of that. Okay, so here's my other Kronbacher again. So let's take a whiff of this. Yeah, so I definitely get classic, herbal, floral, kind of that noble hop variety. Again, I don't know the specific hops they're using here, but if it's not German noble hops, it's a lot of times they use Saaz hops, S-A-A-Z, sometimes Spalt, Tettnang, Hallerturf, Mittelfrüh hop. In the United States, Willamette kind of matches that one pretty closely, but there's a million other hops. New York has a million other hops that kind of give you what would not be good is for a Pilsner if this smelled like orange juice and grapefruit juice, which it doesn't. It smells like an herbal, floral. aroma. So it's very nice there on the nose. Okay, and the color is spot on, and the clarity is spot on too. So I'm going to take a little swig of this. So definitely medium carbonation, nice low to medium kind of mouthfeel, but typical for the style. I definitely get that, I didn't mention in the aroma so much, the typical Pilsner malt. Now, whether they're using a little two-row too, but it's very similar. They're going to have that water cracker, white bread, even on the verge of a wheat, even though they're not using wheat in this, but like a wheat kind of flavor on the palate as far as the malt profile is concerned. That's exactly what I'm getting. There's a moderate to pronounced bitterness as I let it sit here, which again, I don't know what their IBUs were on this, but and again, a lot of times it's more on the perceived bitterness that we're more concerned about than actually IBU units. So we're kind of getting a moderate to pronounced bitterness, which is what you're looking for. Then it kind of fades away a little bit. And I get that herbal, floral kind of hop on the back end. What I love about this is that it's not a heavy-handed hop addition, you can tell. It's like, meaning that you're not getting blasted with the hops, which is not what you want. You want a nice balance, and there is balance here. So it kind of drinks between a German Pilsner, probably like a Kronbacher Pilsner, and like a Munich Helles. I think it has the sweet malt taste, Pilsner malt, and the freshness of it, of like a Munich Helles. It has a little more of a sweeter. Munich Helles is usually the showcases your Pilsner malt a lot. So I would say this is close between a German Pilsner and a Munich Helles. It really showcases the malt very well and very fresh. If you haven't had a lot of fresh malt, go to Moriches Field, and I could tell you, Vienna Smash and probably now this one, you're really going to understand what fresh malt tastes like. Not to say other places are using stale malt. It's just the fact that sometimes they don't showcase it very well, or they hide it with too much hops or too much, this is a kind of a bare naked beer here. You can't hide these clear lagers. This is why I appreciate these type of beers or Pre-Prohibition beers or even other, Budweiser sometimes, is that, you can't hide all flavors when you brew a beer like this, okay? You can hide all flavors with heavy-handed hop additions, fruity pineapple hops, or you're throwing in a bunch of junk chocolate malts, and I just didn't say junk, for proper style, that's fine, but you can hide it in porters and stouts. You can't hide a lot of off flavors in pale lagers like this. So you get that up front, a little bite of the carbonation, no astringency, nice sweet character to the malt. Again, more bready, maybe at the very most, maybe a little breadcrumb, but definitely herbal, noble-like hops. I'll just say noble-like because they may not be necessarily using German hops. There's a lot of great hop varietals here in the United States, especially even here in New York. The aftertaste, again, kind of gives me that herbal, floral kind of, on the palate. And really no creaminess. You wouldn't expect too much creaminess here in this style of beer. But I got to say, spot on. I would be honest with Rich and their crew over there. I would just call this just a regular Pils, like, pre-Prohibition. If someone takes it the actual tea, I perceive no corn or rice in here. And I'd actually be very surprised if they did use it. Just regular Pilsner malt, maybe two-row malt, and whatever hop additions that they're doing. But perfectly balanced Pilsner beer. And again, I can appreciate it because it's even as a home brewer myself, when you do these pale beers, again, as I said before, you can't hide a lot of off flavors. And this is probably one of the freshest Pilsners you're going to get. So guys, again, Moriches Field Brewing Company was the beer Dissection, Papa Pils, a Pre-Prohibition Pils. I would say it's a little bit more like a German Pilsner hybrid with Munich Helles. And remember, Helles means light in German. So the light style, if you ever see, because I get that there's enough sweetness on the malt profile, more like a Munich Helles. But there's enough bitterness that's not quite like Munich Helles, a little higher than that. And that's where the Pilsner is. It's not really assertive bitterness and, assertive hops. It's more of a kind of a moderate to pronounced. So guys, hopefully you learned a little bit about Moriches Field Brewing Company. It's amazing. This is the first beer that I've really reviewed from them, even though I've probably drank their beer most, maybe second closest to West Hampton Beach Brewing Company, about 10 miles away. This one's about a half a mile away. So I would definitely check them out and their beers. You'll get a great education. If you ever grab Rich over there or his brewers, they'd be more than happy to talk to you about their beers. And their staff is great also. And again, I take that because I've been there many times in the past. I haven't been there recently, but my friends are still dropping me, bringing me crowlers, and I'm getting them. All right, guys. So until next time, again, 6.4%. If I didn't mention it earlier, check them out for a lot of different styles of beer. That's again one of the things. They got many different styles. And you'll learn a lot about beer going there, because they're not like, they're 15 beers. They don't have 14 of them IPAs. They've got, stouts and porters and Belgian styles. And that's actually why I love them the best, right here, being so close. But again, I wax poetic for them. Check them out for yourself, and hopefully you like the beer review. And until the next video, guys, I do have an Imperial Stout from them I hope to have posted sometime around this one. Okay, have a great day. Take care.